The relentless sun of Lagos beat down on the cracked asphalt of Oshodi, turning the air into a thick, suffocating haze. Horns blared from Danfo buses crammed with passengers, vendors shouted their wares, fresh oranges, roasted corn, cheap phone chargers, and the smell of exhaust mingled with the earthy scent of street food. In this chaotic symphony of urban life, 8-year-old Zara moved like a shadow, her small hand tightly gripping her mother's. Her bare feet, toughened by months on the streets, dodged puddles of murky water and discarded plastic bags. Zara's dress, once a bright pink hand-me-down from a kind stranger, was now faded and torn, hanging loosely on her undernourished frame. Her eyes, wide and dark, scanned the crowd not with the wonder of childhood, but with the wariness of someone who had learned too early that the world was full of predators. Beside her walked Amina, Zara's mother, a woman of 30 whose beauty had been eroded by hardship. Her belly swelled with the weight of her 7th-month pregnancy, a constant reminder of a moment of desperation that had left her even more vulnerable. Amina's wrapper, tied loosely around her waist, was stained and threadbare, and her steps were labored, each one a battle against the exhaustion that clawed at her. Her husband, Segan, had been her anchor, a hard-working taxi driver who dreamed of a better life for their family. But 2 years ago, on a rainy night along the Apapa-Oshodi Expressway, robbers had ambushed his cab. They took his earnings, his vehicle, and his life, leaving Amina widowed and destitute. With no savings and a young daughter to protect, she had turned to her in-laws in Ikorodu. "Please," she had begged, kneeling in the dirt outside their compound, "for Segan's sake, take us in." But her pleas fell on deaf ears. Segan's family, steeped in superstition and old grudges, accused her of being a witch who had cursed their son. "You brought death to our home," his mother had hissed, her eyes cold as she slammed the gate. Amina's own family, poor yam farmers in a remote village near Ibadan, sent word that they couldn't afford another mouth to feed. "Come back when you have something to offer," her brother had written in a terse letter. Rejected and alone, Amina had fled to Lagos, the city of dreams and nightmares, hoping its vastness would hide her pain and provide a way forward. Instead, Lagos had become their prison. They slept wherever they could, under the leaky awnings of abandoned shops in Mushin, in the crowded underbelly of Yaba Market, or huddled against the concrete pillars of bridges during the rainy season. Hunger was their unrelenting companion, a sharp pain that twisted Zara's stomach into knots. Amina scavenged for food in the refuse heaps behind markets, picking through rotten tomatoes, wilted greens, and scraps of EBA that others had discarded. On good days, they might find a half-eaten loaf of agage bread or a bruised mango. On bad days, they went without, Amina giving whatever little she found to Zara, whispering, "Eat, my angel." Mama is fine. Zara, though only 8, had become her mother's guardian in many ways. She remembered the nights when Amina would sit rocking back and forth, tears streaming down her face as she mourned Segan. "Why did God take him, Mama?" Zara would ask, curling into her mother's lap. Amina would stroke her hair, singing soft Yoruba lullabies about brave warriors who conquered lions and brought home feasts. But as the months wore on, Amina's pregnancy, a result of a desperate encounter with a man who promised shelter in exchange for companionship, only to vanish at dawn, added new layers of suffering. Morning sickness left her weak, her ankles swelled from walking endless miles, and the baby kicked restlessly, as if sensing the turmoil outside. The streets were a minefield of dangers. Area boys, gangs of young men high on cheap drugs and desperation, roamed the alleys, preying on the vulnerable. One evening, as the sun set over Ojuelegba, Amina and Zara sought shelter in a narrow side street lined with crumbling buildings. The rain had just stopped, leaving the ground slick and pungent. A group of 4 thugs approached, their eyes glazed, laughter echoing like hyenas. "Fine woman, you day shine for here," one said, stepping closer, his hand reaching for Amina's arm. Zara pressed against her mother, heart pounding. Amina tried to back away, but her belly made her slow. "Please, leave us," she pleaded, her voice steady despite the fear. The leader grinned, grabbing her wrapper. "Where'n you go give me?" Zara's scream pierced the air. "Leave my mama alone." She kicked at the man's shin, her small foot connecting with surprising force. Startled, he swore and swung his hand, but a nearby trader, hearing the commotion, rushed out with a broom, shouting threats. The thugs scattered, cursing as they fled into the shadows. Amina pulled Zara close, trembling. "You brave girl," she whispered, but that night, as they huddled under a tarp, Zara couldn't sleep. She felt the weight of their fragility, the way the city seemed intent on breaking them. As Amina's pregnancy advanced, her health deteriorated. Dizziness plagued her, black spots dancing in her vision. She hid it from Zara as best she could, but the girl noticed, the way her mother leaned on walls for support, the shallow breaths during their daily treks. Zara took on more responsibilities, begging at traffic lights in Akeja. "Auntie, uncle, please, small money for food," she'd say, her voice small but insistent, holding out her cupped hands. Some days, coins clinked in, enough for a sachet of pure water or a stick of suya. Other days, drivers rolled up their windows, their faces averted. Zara learned to read expressions, the pitying glances, the annoyed scowls, and it hardened something in her young heart. One particularly brutal afternoon, the heat wave gripped Lagos like a vice. The air shimmered above the roads, and the smell of frying akara from street vendors only intensified their hunger. Amina and Zara had been walking for hours, searching for shade and scraps in Balogun Market, the heart of Lagos Island where fabrics fluttered like colorful flags and traders haggled over prices. Amina's face was flushed, sweat beading on her forehead. "Zara, let's rest," she murmured, her voice faint. They found a spot near a row of stalls, Amina lowering herself to the ground with a groan. Suddenly, Amina's world tilted. Pain shot through her abdomen, and she clutched her belly, gasping. "Mama!" Zara's voice rose in panic as Amina slumped sideways, her eyes fluttering shut. "Mama, wake up!" Zara shook her shoulders, but Amina didn't respond. Her breathing was ragged, her skin clammy and cold. The market buzzed around them, people stepping over Amina's legs, vendors calling out deals, but no one stopped. Zara's tears came hot and fast. She knew her mother needed a doctor, medicine, something beyond their reach. In her mind, she pictured the hospitals she'd seen from afar, gleaming buildings for the rich. Across the street, traffic crawled, a sea of yellow taxis and luxury SUVs. Zara's eyes locked on a black Range Rover, its tinted windows reflecting the chaos. It looked important, like it belonged to someone who could help. Wiping her tears, Zara darted through the crowd, weaving between legs and carts. She reached the car and banged on the window with her small fists. "Please, help, my mama is dying," she cried, her voice cracking. Inside the vehicle sat Drive Chidi Okonkwo, a 52-year-old billionaire surgeon, whose life was a testament to rags to riches triumph. Born in the slums of Ajagunle, Chidi had lost his parents young to cholera, surviving on the streets much like Zara. He begged, scavenged, and dreamed of escape. A chance encounter with a missionary doctor sparked his ambition. Scholarships took him to the University of Lagos, then Oxford for advanced training. Now, he owned a network of state-of-the-art hospitals across Nigeria, from Lagos to Abuja, and his philanthropy funded free clinics in the very slums he'd escaped. But success hadn't erased his scars, nights haunted by memories of hunger, the sister he'd lost to the streets years ago. Chidi was en route to a meeting at his flagship hospital in Lekki when traffic halted him. His driver, Emeka, muttered about the jam, but Chidi was lost in thought, reviewing patient files on his tablet. The banging on the window startled him. Emeka waved the child away. "Go, small girl, no money here," but Chidi leaned forward, rolling down the window. Zara's face, streaked with dirt and tears, met his. "Sir, please, my mama fell down. She's pregnant, and she's not waking up. Save her, please." Chidi's heart clenched. He saw himself in her desperation, the raw fear in her eyes mirroring his own childhood pleas. "Show me," he said, stepping out despite Emeka's protests. The crowd parted for the tall man in the crisp suit, his presence commanding. Zara led him to Amina, who lay motionless amid the market filth. Chidi knelt, checking her pulse, weak, thready. Her skin was dehydrated, her belly tense. Preeclampsia, possibly, he diagnosed quickly, his training kicking in. He pulled out his phone. "Emeka, call the hospital. Tell them to send an ambulance now." Minutes later, sirens wailed as paramedics from Okonkwo Medical Center arrived. They lifted Amina onto a stretcher, Zara clinging to the side, refusing to let go. "She's my mama," she sobbed. Chitty nodded to the medics. Take the girl too. In the ambulance, Chitty administered emergency fluids, his hands steady despite the bumping ride over potholes. Zara watched in awe, her small hand in her mother's. At the hospital, a gleaming edifice of glass and steel in Lekki Phase 1, Amina was rushed to the ER. Nurses swarmed, hooking her to monitors, drawing blood. Tests confirmed Chitty's suspicions: severe anemia, malnutrition, dehydration, and early preeclampsia. The baby was in distress, but viable. She needs immediate care, Chitty told his team. Admit her to ICU. Full workup. Zara sat in the waiting area, a nurse bringing her a bottle of Fanta and a plate of jollof rice, her first proper meal in weeks. The flavors exploded on her tongue, but she ate slowly, eyes fixed on the doors where her mother had vanished. Chitty approached, kneeling to her level. Your name is Zara. She nodded. I'm Drive, Okonkwo. Your mama is stable now. She's resting. Zara's lip trembled. Will she be okay? The baby too. Chitty smiled gently. Yes, because you were brave enough to ask for help. Over the next days, Amina recovered slowly. IV nutrients revived her color, medications controlled her blood pressure. Zara stayed by her side, sleeping on a cot in the private room Chitty had arranged. He visited daily, bringing toys for Zara, a doll with braided hair, coloring books, and clothes that fit. Amina, grateful but wary, shared fragments of their story: Segun's death, the family rejections, the streets, cruelty. Chitty listened, his empathy deepening. I've been where you are, he confided. The streets take everything if you let them. As Amina grew stronger, conversations turned personal. She mentioned her maiden name, Ease, and her birth village near Enugu. Chitty paused, his fork hovering over lunch in the hospital cafeteria. Ease from Umudi. Amina nodded, puzzled by his intensity. Chitty excused himself, returning with a faded photograph from his wallet, a young woman with Amina's high cheekbones and warm smile, holding an infant. This is Nkechi, my cousin, he said, voice hoarse. She was like a sister to me. 25 years ago, she got pregnant out of wedlock. Our family, strict and traditional, cast her out. She came to Lagos, and we never heard from her again. I searched for years, hired detectives, visited slums, but nothing. Amina's eyes widened. The stories her adoptive relatives had told, of a mother who died young, no details given, clicked into place. I was raised by distant aunts, she whispered. They said my mother was gone, but never why. Chitty arranged a DNA test, the results confirming what his heart already knew. Amina was Nkechi's daughter, his niece. The family secret, Nkechi's shame, buried to preserve honor, had led to generations of suffering. Chitty broke down, hugging Amina. I failed her, but God brought you to me through this child. Zara, overhearing, beamed. You saved us, Uncle Chitty. He moved them to his mansion in Banana Island, a sprawling estate with gardens and a pool that Zara splashed in with glee. Tutors helped her catch up on school, therapists addressed the trauma. When Amina's son arrived, a healthy boy with Chitty's determined eyes, Zara held him first, naming him Kelechi, meaning, thank God. Their new life wasn't without challenges. Amina struggled with trust, flashbacks to the streets haunting her dreams. Zara sometimes woke screaming from nightmares of hunger. Chitty confronted his guilt, expanding his clinics to include shelters for homeless mothers. Amina joined him, advocating for policy changes, her voice strong from survival. Zara, the girl whose plea changed everything, grew into a symbol of hope, her story inspiring others. In Lagos's unforgiving embrace, love proved unbreakable, a homeless girl's courage, a mother's endurance, a doctor's redemption weaving a tapestry of family reborn.